I said, look, the reason it's being kept so secret is because the technologies behind how those objects move. They have no jets, they have no rockets, they're not an internal combustion engine, and they most certainly don't have a nuclear power plant on them because there's no heat signature, and nuclear power fission is hot.
In a groundbreaking revelation, Dr. Stephen Greer exposes shocking details about recent alien sightings that have left the world stunned. Did you know that some of these sightings might not be extraterrestrial at all, but advanced human-made technologies kept hidden from the public for decades? What do these revelations mean for the future of humanity and our understanding of the cosmos?
When you look at them, you realize it's a whole new physics, a whole electromagnetic propulsion type system using very high voltage systems, similar to what Nikola Tesla and other people stumbled across in the early 20th century.
Join us as we dive deep into Greer's astonishing claims and uncover the truth behind these mysterious encounters. Greer says everything we believe is wrong.
If the most important technologies and information in the history of the United States is being held covertly by an unelected and unappointed group that is not being overseen by the president or the people's representatives in Congress, it makes a complete mockery. Everything you've been told is wrong, my friend. Well, not everything.
I'm listening to you and I see.
Dr. Stephen Greer is a retired emergency physician, an MD, a researcher, an author, and an efficient documentary maker. It is one of the most extraordinary stories of how a person who was a part of the emergency medicine environment could become one of the major figures in the field of search for extraterrestrial intelligence, SET. Also known as the father of the disclosure movement, Dr. Greer had his first contact with UFOs at the age of 8 in North Carolina. Lured by a burning passion and a clear purpose, Greer later devoted himself to research on the existence of alien intelligence and numerous cases of their observations on the planet. He claims that there is a secret and criminal parallel government using extraterrestrial technology for nefarious ends, a clear danger to the country. In his book, Extraterrestrial Contact, Dr. Greer has described how actual alien civilizations have been visiting the Earth for thousands of years, and more so in the 20th century, when atomic weapons were built. He goes further to say that the military-industrial complex has since captured and reverse-engineered an alien craft and had created similar replicas. According to Greer, there are proofs that extraterrestrials have been around for as long as mankind. Paleolithic cave paintings and historical art are the proofs that tell us that. This will seek to compel governments to release classified information on the subject. Greer also established the Center for the Study of Extraterrestrial Intelligence, CSATI, and Serious Technology Advanced Research, the principal goal of which is to develop friendly relations with space visitors. Interest in UFOs and extraterrestrial. Greer was interested in knowing about the great unknown long before he dedicated his life to the topic. In fact, ever since he was young, he had all the books and magazines related to the topic. His interest was then taken to the next level by his uncle, L. Macon Epps, who helped design the lunar module that landed on the moon in 1969. In 1973, while he was hiking alone in the Blue Ridge Mountains of North Carolina, Greer recalls an extremely close sighting of a disc-shaped craft involving interactions with its occupants. Since that moment, Greer says that he had no doubts that all of it was real. But the more important question was, what was Greer going to do about it? Greer got the answer to this question in 1990, when he had further strange incidents, which propelled him to do something about it and to organize people around the topic of UFOs and aliens. He wanted to establish a method based on groups of investigators that worked together. This gave birth to CSETI, which operates from Greer's basement in Asheville. The idea behind CSETI is to bring about close encounters and to study them in complete detail. The idea of close encounters was conceived by Allen Hynek about 20 years ago. There are 3 categories that fall under close encounters. CE1s involve aerial sightings that are closer than 500 feet. CE2s are sightings that are supported by physical evidence, such as radar tracks, landmarks, frightened animals, and broken branches. And finally, CE3's sightings are when we come face to face with aliens. The description of aliens being described as short, gray, humanoids, but sometimes winged creatures, shaggy hulks or tall blondes who look like Rutger Hauer. Later, a CE4's category was also established by UFO researchers to cover up cases of humans boarding alien craft, whether voluntarily or by abduction. Greer had developed close encounters of a 5th kind, known as CE5s, which is designated as human-initiated communication with the nearby extraterrestrial craft using light, sound, and any directed awareness. However, Greer and his team aren't just in it to spot UFOs from afar. They are regularly in contact with teams around the world who know of windows and hotspots. These windows have consistent patterns of UFO sightings over the years, with limited geographic areas over prolonged periods of time. Whenever a particular area like this is identified, CSETI sends its Rapid Mobilization Investigative Team, RMIT, to identify these areas. Currently, CSETI has 20 grassroots working groups in different cities in the United States, as well as in Canada. In it, there are teams that have gone through training in CSETI's approach to extraterrestrial contact. Around 100 people have taken advanced skills, training required to be eligible for consideration as a team member of the Rapid Mobilization Investigative Team. But this is a demanding job after all. Instead of demonstrating top-flight fieldwork, RMIT members must leave their families and jobs on short notice to enter into high-level UFO events anywhere on the planet. During extended trips and traveling, they also have to pay out of their own pocket. Greer's rallying cry. Dr. Stephen Greer has written 5 books and directed 5 feature-length documentaries, although these documentaries have been seen by close to 1 billion people globally. His latest work, The Lost Century and How to Reclaim It, explores the effect of a century-long UFO concealment, which he says has arrested human spiritual, cultural, and technological growth. The main concept of this documentary is the disclosure of the technologies that exist in today's classified projects, and which originated from the scientific discoveries of such outstanding people as Nikola Tesla. He is confident that these technologies can help to save our planet and fight poverty in the next 1.5 to 2 decades. Dr. Greer has devoted himself to lobbying scientists, inventors, and other leaders from different fields to advance the development of clean energy systems. He is considered to be one of the leading authorities on how to wrench our carbon-based civilization into a sustainable age powered by technology.
When you look at them, you realize it's a whole new physics, a whole electromagnetic propulsion type system using very high voltage systems, similar to what Nikola Tesla and other people stumbled across in the early 20th century. But I said, if that were to be disclosed.
Among the technologies he talks about are zero-point energy, which could end pollution and poverty, electromagnetic gravitics, to manipulate space-time for fast travel, and consciousness-assisted technologies, which utilizes human spiritual energy to achieve its goals. In Greer's opinion, the real secret is not about aliens. They exist, and they have been funded through illicit means in the contracting context to form what may be referred to as a secret government. Sounds pretty fishy, doesn't it? Government's role in UFO secrecy and NPR Illinois article. In the NPR Illinois article, Greer speaks on the tradition of government secrecy on UFOs and the implications of such actions. He constantly states that the issue is not in the fact of aliens, but in the technologies that were developed and hidden from the population. Worse still, as Greer noted, governments of the world, especially the US and many other world powers, have been concealing information about UFOs and alien technologies for the last few decades. He opines that this is occasioned by factors including the potential to invent disruptive energy technologies that would alter the existing world system, especially the fossil energy systems. Overall, according to Greer, if these technologies were disclosed, it would lead to a new period of power generation, and that too, without the assistance of fossil resources. It would neutralize most of the worldwide environmental and financial problems. In the article from NPR Illinois, the author goes over the historical aspect of the government concealing UFOs and then mentions that for the past 75 years, people have stopped trusting their government. The origin of such concealment can be as far back as the middle of the 20th century, when the world began to hear and see the spaghetti westerns of UFO phenomena. Over the years, and with the release of more such reports, and with the gathering of more such information, the reaction of the government has been one of concealment, hiding information, and as such feeding the imagination of the people, and giving rise to conspiracy theories regarding the things that are out there. One major program founded by Dr. Greer is the Disclosure Project, which was initiated in 1993. The goal of the project is to gather sincere testimonies of military or government personnel who met UFOs or have information on the secret programs on the presence of extraterrestrial phenomena. By compiling these testimonies, the Disclosure Project aims to build a compelling case for government transparency and to pressure officials to release classified information to the public. The NPR Illinois article highlights the significance of the Disclosure Project in the broader context of the UFO debate. Greer's efforts have helped to legitimize the conversation about UFOs, moving it from the fringes of conspiracy theory into the mainstream. The project has also played a critical role in fostering public awareness and encouraging a more open dialogue about the potential implications of extraterrestrial contact. Technical suppression and UFO sightings.
So this pretty much describes all organized religion, political parties, institutions, social movements. They forget what the initiating goal was as they become more and more fanatical and then go sideways. So it's like the entire American experiment.
Perhaps the most emphasized argument in Greer's discourse is the notion of deliberate cover-up of the technologies associated with the UFO phenomenon. He notes that some of these technologies, like energy systems and propulsion methods, when made public, could alter the destiny of mankind. For example, Greer backed the concept that the spread of such technologies could lead to the elimination of the use of fossil fuel, reduce pollution, and therefore fight climate change at its source. What this kind of technological suppression has led to is a worry of the NPR Illinois article, which is that it has stunted scientific development and has also raised the levels of unfairness across the globe. In this way, those in power have made sure that such technologies remain hidden and never come to the knowledge of the masses, thus perpetuating the existing energy regime, where the few continue to grow richer at the expense of the many. It is also worth mentioning that Greer has included the recent enhanced activity and sightings of UFOs in his discourse. He argues that this trend could in one way be a result of the steadily rising levels of development and testing of new innovations by both the government and other private agencies. In the recent past, Greer has gone on to say that some of the UFO sightings in the recent past could be a result of technologies that were created by people, and not the craft of aliens. This gives rise to some questions as to the actual nature of these sightings and why they are disguised in the first place. The NPR Illinois article also considers the general effects of such activity intensification in relation to world safety. In particular, if the progress of new technologies remains a secret, the prospects might be catastrophic. This may lead to the creation of a new format, an arms race that may have unpredictable repercussions for the state of the world. Dr. Stephen Greer's work, as discussed in the NPR Illinois article, underscores the urgent need for greater transparency in the discussion of UFOs and extraterrestrial intelligence. He argues that the public has a right to know the truth about what is happening behind closed doors, and that the disclosure of these technologies could have a transformative impact on humanity. Greer's call for transparency is not just about satisfying curiosity. It is about addressing some of the most pressing challenges facing the world today, from environmental degradation to economic inequality. By bringing these issues into the open, he hopes to foster a new era of innovation and progress, one that is based on the principles of openness, cooperation, and the pursuit of knowledge. When taking a look at it as a whole, the NPR article provides us with some pretty good insights on UFOs and how information like this needs to be transparent. Greer saying the government acknowledges UFOs. The topic of UFOs is one that has been of interest to people for a long time. However, to this date, authorities and scientists have not accepted it. However, the last few years have seen a shift in the discussion and handling of issues regarding UFOs, or as they are now referred to as unidentified aerial phenomena, UAPs. The recent efforts of the U.S. authorities to acknowledge the existence of such phenomena, as well as possible implications of such statements, were discussed with Dr. Stephen Greer, a professional ufologist and the author of several books on the government's secrecy about UFOs in the interview for Vlad TV. Dr. Greer has for many years claimed that the U.S. government and other world governments have deliberately withheld information about UFOs and extraterrestrial intelligence. As Greer noted, this secrecy started during the middle of the 20th century, when there were growing reports of UFO sightings and interest. Consequently, the government's response to these encounters was to bury and obscure information, which only stoked the conspiracy theories. In the interview with Vlad TV, Greer also explains that the recent action of the government in acknowledging the existence of UAPs is a far cry from the earlier policy of denying and concealing information on the same. He opines that such a development is not a sign of increased openness, but an elaborate system of information management that seeks to determine how the public is going to view the issue in question. Is the U.S. gov't acknowledgement a good move? Another idea that comes out clearly from the interview with Dr. Greer is that the acknowledgement of UAPs by the U.S. government does not equate to full disclosure. He notes that the government has claimed that such phenomena exist and should be researched further, while at the same time doing everything in its power not to talk about the deeper aspects of the situation, the extraterrestrial factor. According to Greer, this behavior from the U.S. government is a part of a systematic attempt to steadily prepare the population to accept the fact of UAPs without shocking the public. By referring to the discussion as unidentified aerial phenomena and not flying saucers, the government can steer the conversation in a way that they can manage and effectively avoid some of the more contentious areas of the UFO debate. The government of the United States of America recognizing UAPs stems from more significant consequences, including the security of the nation and the public. Dr. Greer further explains how this new openness could open up a new era in how these phenomena are acknowledged or explored. However, at the same time, he claims that the government may have a hidden agenda behind this disclosure, and that the decision may have been made with the intent to justify more spending on the military and the development of new technologies. He is especially worried about the militarization of space and the possible use of UAPs as a cover for the elaboration of new weapons. To this, he explains that some of the sightings of the UAPs might be a result of advanced human technology and not of alien spacecraft. This possibility poses important questions on the real nature of such sightings and the rationale of the government in its recognition of such. Here, Dr. Greer focuses on how the military-industrial complex is involved with the UAP phenomenon. He posits that there is an intimate connection between the profound secrecy that surrounds UAPs and some of the major defense contractors who have a great deal to lose from any change. Greer has claimed that these entities are behind the development of cutting-edge technologies, some of which have perhaps been reverse-engineered off of retrieved UFOs. Dr. Greer also has a very firm belief that there is what he calls a shadow government, an authority that is exercising power and influence over the USA without the approval of the legal government of the country. He is convinced that this hidden structure is the one that conceals the most substantive aspects of the UAP technology. As such, it guarantees that these advances do not upset the existing economic and political framework. That's all there is to it. Dr. Greer is right. Greer has always supported full disclosure, claiming that the information being kept from society can revolutionize it. He is convinced that if the capricious technologies are disclosed, the world would be free from a number of severe issues, including climate change and poverty. At the same time, Greer discusses the difficulties of realizing true disclosure successfully. He argues that there are those who have something to lose in revealing such information, and therefore, it will take the work of activists, scholars, and anyone interested to get past the barriers. In the future, Dr. Greer believes that the recent statement of the U.S. government about UAPs can be an indication of the forthcoming transparency, but he doubts the purpose of it. He urges the public to stay awake and to insist on more disclosure in this area, not only from the U.S. government, but from other powerful countries that may have information about UAPs and ETs. But, on the other hand, these phenomena have at least been recognized by the government to some extent, and that at the same time created another set of questions as to what is still being hushed up, and why. To Dr. Greer's mind, the aim is always to unveil the truth irrespective of the challenges that are likely to be encountered. What to perceive about UFOs? On the London Real podcast, Greer discusses a bit more about his life's work and the need for truth and global conversation about the after-effects of alien contact. There's also a passionate interest in the subject, too, when he discusses not only UFOs, but the way alien technology could change the world. A second of the podcast's central themes is the evolving UFO in the public consciousness and in official government circles. It is now official admission, even in government, that UFOs exist and should be taken seriously, Greer reports, and it is precisely that admission that has finally extricated the matter from the conspiracy. Greer also adds that not all the UFOs reportedly seen over the years are even alien. Instead, he says, most of these sightings can be traced to extremely sophisticated human-made devices developed in the shadows by the government and private industry. Technologies like those, Greer says, are the result of classified research, conducted over the course of decades, and most of it paid for from black budgets and out of public view. The alien and human future. One of the fascinating segments of the podcast, however, is Greer's ruminations on alien tech and the implications for humanity. Greer says that the UFO technologies, which he refers to as zero-point energy, as mentioned earlier, would revolutionize life on Earth if they were fully developed and implemented. This, he believes, would be a source of pure, boundless energy that would not only solve the global energy crisis, but also reduce environmental devastation and economic inequality. Greer believes that alien civilizations have been on Earth for millennia and have shaped the history of mankind in ways that we are just now discovering. These races are not, as is sometimes portrayed in popular fiction, out to do us harm, Greer says, but are genuinely interested in the fate of our planet and its inhabitants. Greer has accounts of various other contact experiences and communications with aliens that he and others have had. These communications, Greer said, typically are with higher levels of consciousness and telepathy, and those civilizations are much more spiritually and technologically advanced than we are. He is convinced that peaceful, open contact with these beings will bring about a new age of international collaboration and wisdom. In the final episode of the podcast, Dr. Greer calls for more transparency and international cooperation to solve the UFO enigma, alien technology, and even the question of alien contact. He demands an end to the silence that has surrounded these issues for decades, insisting the public deserves to know the truth, and that humanity's mapping the future depends on our ability to adopt these new technologies. As Greer calls for transparency and global cooperation, he invites us all to become active participants in the quest for truth, and to imagine a world transformed by the technologies and wisdom of advanced civilizations. The podcast serves not only as an informative discussion, but also as a call to action. Whether you are a skeptic or a believer, Dr. Greer's insights compel us to engage with these issues, seek out the truth, and envision a future where humanity's relationship with extraterrestrial civilizations is one of peace, cooperation, and mutual understanding. You now know that governments are trying their best to hide extraterrestrial information from the public. So, stay woke, stay alert. See you again in the next one.